Activision does not think highly of our modern education systems if it felt the need to point this fact out.
As we brace for our darkest hour, we must summon our strength to be the bulwark against oppression.
Game misses the opportunity to include Winston Churchill's famous speech. This is a series that has quoted every famous line uttered about war during loading screens, yet they couldn't do it here. Oh, and narration. Daniels honestly looks like he's B.J. Blazkowicz's little brother.
This day we set upon a mighty endeavor.
So you can quote FDR, but not Churchill? I know Churchill didn't have an amazing voice and sounded like he was drunk half of the time, but goddamn, those words still have power.
Paul, it's June 6, 1944. Wish you could see this, brother.
As we will eventually learn, Daniel's brother Paul is dead. So writing Paul this letter is so pointless it makes Daniels look crazy. The only reason for the letter writing is to keep Paul's fate a secret for a reveal later on. Little known fact, you can only be recruited to fight in a war if you are a ruggedly handsome man. There's not a man below an 8 on the hotness scale in this platoon. I can't think of a better bet to be making on the eve of D-Day than one that could potentially cripple your hand and render you unable to shoot a gun.
I gotta keep all my fingers. I'm gonna take photo of the year.
Every time Styles speaks, it will be to remind you that he's the smart one of the group. That's also why they gave him glasses. You may recognize his stunning character development technique from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles' Donatello. In fact, every single member of this platoon is basically a Ninja Turtle. Pearson is your hot-headed Raphael, Styles is a nerdy Donatello, Daniels is Leonardo, and Zussman is Michelangelo. You could even make the argument that Turner is Master Splinter.
Let's make this more interesting. Say Michael.
There's nothing else on the table. This is the start of the betting. If you're going to show this scene up close, at least make it look presentable. Zussman just clipped that knife through his hand.
Ma said never shake hands with a Jew.
That's racist. Also, touching a Jew is out of the question, but gambling with one isn't. Your mother gave you a weird prejudice.
That's not what she said last night.
Let me help you get over your racism by insinuating that I slept with your mother. Surprisingly, this works.
Briefing's about to start. What the hell you boys doing?
They were on their way to it. Why aren't you chewing out the guys directly behind you who are still sitting down playing cards? Let me point out the problem with starting your World War II game with D-Day. Nothing that precedes this moment will top it. After D-Day, the Allies slowly but surely made their way towards Germany. D-Day is as close to a climactic finale as you get on the Western Front. Honestly, the game should end with a D-Day. For the next few minutes, you get to relive so many of the opening moments from Saving Private Ryan that you would swear you were playing a licensed game. I hope they at least got Steven Spielberg a check for writing their game for them, especially since it then transitions into Band of Brothers. For a level set in one of the most dramatic battles in history, this sure is boring. D-Day lasts only a few minutes according to this game. I'm surprised that the History Channel devotes so much time to covering this battle if this is how it went down.
He gonna be alright? Yeah. He taped him up pretty good.
Zussman should still be unconscious though. He lost a lot of blood, and you can't do a blood transfusion on the battlefield.
What you did back there, I owe you.
You paid him back by dragging him out of the bunker once he was stabbed, saving his life. But this game needs a reason for the relationship between Daniels and Zussman. So Daniels makes his promise so the drama can unfold later.
Welcome to the bloody first.
Ah, Call of Duty, the franchise that is written like a Mad Lib of lines taken from every war movie.
None of us could have prepared for that.
Really? You couldn't be prepared for being shot at and dealing with wounded? That's something that's covered pretty extensively in basic training. Here's the biggest issue with this game. It really wants to be Band of Brothers, while at the same time being a Call of Duty game. Band of Brothers was an award-winning miniseries due to the strength of its cast. World War II was just the backdrop. Here, the cast is so forgettable that I spent the entire game referring to characters by their one character trait than I did their name. Call of Duty at its core is a summer blockbuster turned into a video game. It doesn't have the pacing or attention to character development to pull this off.
You know, Nietzsche said there was only strong...
That's enough mouth, alright.
This is the correct way to respond to anyone trying to quote Nietzsche. Why is there even an attack being launched on this church if there are this many German soldiers in armor in between Pearson's unit and the church? They drove through the German lines in jeeps to get here. They didn't push the Germans back. All that should realistically happen is Daniels and the platoon arrive at the scene of a massacre and then are killed themselves since they would be surrounded and cut off.
Zussman! Grab the wheel! I'm getting on the gun!
Why wasn't Zussman on the gun from the beginning while you were driving? And why doesn't he take the gun rather than the wheel from you? Pearson starts establishing himself as the asshole commanding officer right from his first line of dialogue. Even when people offer him sound advice, his asshole reflex kicks in and reminds him that he has to act like the antagonist in this game since they couldn't find one in the entire German army. Daniels keeps dreaming about his older brother being mauled by a wolf. The reason for this is to set up the finale where Daniels will not fail to take the shot and save someone like he didn't do with his brother. The problem, however, is that Daniels has no reason to be dreaming about this right now. He hasn't failed at anything since D-Day. In fact, he's been pretty successful. So why all the self-doubt?
Good old St. Michael's watching over us.
Just thought I'd remind you about this necklace in case you forgot about it. I'm still Jewish, by the way, so I shouldn't be revering the Catholic version of the angel Michael. Judaism's Michael is a bit different and they wouldn't refer to him as a saint.
So are you gonna tell me about that dream?
You mean he hadn't already? When Daniels woke up, you asked him this.
Same dream, huh?
Which makes me assume Daniels had already told you about the dream he keeps having. Wolves rarely attack humans, and if one is attacking you, you can be assured that it's attacking you with the pack and your ass is toast. A single wolf is more likely to run away from two humans rather than attack.
I'm trying!
Why didn't you start stabbing the wolf from the beginning instead of waiting for Daniels to take the shot? You have fatal wounds all over you at this point. and you only started stabbing it once the wolf had you pinned. Want to know how to confuse people and make those who serve under you hate your guts?
Our job is to lay down suppressive fire from that church. Any questions? Good, I have a question. Save them up, Styles. You win a gold star.
If this video feels phoned in, it's more the game's fault than my lack of effort. There's no one thing you can point to that stands out as being wrong. This game is more like a magic picture of boring. You can stare at it with your eyes crossed for several minutes until you think you see something, but it's simply your brain struggling to piece something interesting together from this sad pile of missed opportunities. And with that in mind, why did COD even return to World War II? It doesn't feel as if they had a story they just had to share, and the multiplayer is going to be the same no matter what the setting is. If only that church bell had crushed him, then I could once again believe that casualty still exists, because surviving all of that was some BS.
You see wings on me, Private? No, Sergeant. That's because I'm not your fairy fucking godmother!
You might as well be. None of you should be alive. And even an asshole like yourself would take a moment from being an asshole to appreciate that you were still alive.
You've been holding out on me, boys. I've been way too easy on you. Well, now we're gonna find out what you're really made of.
They just took Marigny. How are you still not impressed?
We received intelligence from the resistance about a German train carrying V2 rockets for an attack on Paris.
Why would the Germans be attacking Paris with V2 rockets? They still control Paris at this time.
This is no ordinary German supply train. It's a fortress on wheels.
I sinned Battlefield 1 for this same thing. Stopping a train is not that difficult for an armed force. Destroy the tracks or a bridge and the job is done.
We need to stop that train!
You do need to stop the train, but you need a plan to do that. You were just jumping into jeeps and following it and hoping something happens. With the speed that train was going and how heavy it is, it should have demolished their jeep and them with it, instead of pushing the jeep in front of it for a mile before derailing. Daniel survives this, and probably a few more things that I don't care to continue this joke for. Just die already. This is a series that is known for killing the main character after all. Why change now?
The train was supposed to be stopped, not destroyed.
You are in the middle of German-controlled territory. What was your plan for a captured train in that situation?
She's a member of the resistance, and if you can believe it, she made us paw through the wreckage for some papers.
There would be Germans crawling all over that wreckage right now. Finding documents in that crash would already be next to impossible even without being shot at.
The garrison was run by SS and Polizeiführer Heinrich. And he couldn't find me. He came for my parents. And my husband. And finally, my son.
We're going to be playing as Rousseau for the next mission. Since she was just introduced and we never see her again after this level, they give her the easiest backstory possible. It's completely unnecessary. I would have been more than willing to accept that her only motivation was being a French patriot.
The garrison.
Maybe the Nazis shouldn't be lighting up their garrison, and making it an easy target to spot from the air when they know an Allied attack might happen at any moment. It was standard practice during the war to kill the lights in case of a nighttime bombing raid.
If you're stopped, your cover story must be ironclad. Let's go over it again.
That's cute. They want you to believe giving the wrong answer will have consequences. Also, I would love to see Telltale take a crack at a Call of Duty game in their style. Can you imagine? Let's talk about this plan. Daniels and his squad had to stop an armored and heavily guarded train, find documents inside it that would let Rousseau impersonate a German official so she could sneak into a Nazi garrison, and then meet with a turncoat who would provide explosives that she would then plan to blow open the garrison doors. Retaking Paris was riding on this mission and all of its variables.
Are you ready to make the exchange?
No, you're early. And I'm late for a meeting. I'll have the explosives in a case matching yours. We'll have to make the swap in the war room.
You couldn't have stashed the bomb somewhere instead of leaving it in a room full of officers? I know this is a reference to the failed assassination attempt on Hitler, but it doesn't even make sense because the goal is to blow open some gates.
Lead the way.
No, they're watching me. Use your cover to get into Heinrich's office on the 3rd floor. From there, you can cut across to the north wing and avoid the checkpoints.
She walked through the entire building without drawing attention to herself. That's what a disguise is used for. Instead, you want her to sneak into the office of the man who killed her family and would be the one most likely to recognize her, just so she can sneak into a war room you were headed to anyway and could escort her to.
Danken mir sehr noch nicht. Fräulein Schneider.
Nazis would make the worst poker players. They can't have even the simplest conversation without obvious tells that they are about to do something sinister.
Now, if you will indulge me, perhaps we can converse in English.
Why? German is your native language, and Rousseau was speaking it just fine. Also, even though Heinrich switches to English, the foreign language subtitles stick around.
Watching your son flail as he drowned under my boot gave me the greatest pleasure of all. Rousseau!
Heinrich sees through Rousseau's disguise for who she really is, and plans to kill her. But instead of using the fire poker he brandished a minute ago, he puts it away in favor of shoving her to the floor. Dramatic moment is ruined by the horrible and downright lazy clipping of the bottle through Heinrich's neck. This is just like the gambling scene at the beginning. If you were going to show a stabbing up close, at least make it look good. Don't bother searching the blood-covered lady holding an identical briefcase right next to the man you arrested.
Did it. The ghost forces are entering the city.
Glad to know everything that I just did was worthless since De Gaulle has already entered Paris.
Or hey, maybe it's like Schrodinger's letter. You know, You don't open it, she's still your girl.
Styles has not once missed an opportunity to show that he's the smart one. He's like a Reddit poster or YouTube blogger. One of the big beliefs of game publishers these days is that people don't want single-player games anymore, and I think they are attempting to make that a self-fulfilling prophecy by sabotaging their single-player campaigns. After that section with Rousseau, the game returns to plodding along in search of a plot while reliving classic World War II movies like Kelly's Heroes.
Sounds like a kid. Daniels, you still got that chocolate bar?
Yes, sir.
Yes, but for some reason I kept it half open in my pocket and never took a bite.
You better come see this.
You better come see this, cliche.
We passed that truck a few hundred yards back. We can drive it here and we can get them all out.
With all due respect, our mission was to secure this hotel.
Securing this hotel will mean removing the civilians inside it, though. You can't simply leave a bunch of German citizens in your base.
What's she saying?
She thinks her sister went back to the basement.
Well, then that's where she's staying. We gotta get these people out of here. Come on.
Lieutenant, let me go.
Nobody's going.
You got 2 minutes.
Was it really necessary to get these people out or go back for the little girl? They are German citizens, so it's not as if the German soldiers would harm them. Losing one weapon in a cutscene means you lose all of your weapons. I've lost count of how many times Daniels has been sent flying by an explosion and survived.
Krauts could be here any second, so show me what you're made of and get on your feet.
In Daniels' mind, his brother doesn't move his lips when dispensing advice.
We hold this position until Pearson gets here, then we take the hill together.
Unless he bypassed the mill and went for it himself.
He doesn't have the manpower.
It's never stopped him before.
Said we wait here, and that's what we're gonna do.
Turner is dead set on defending this area until Pearson arrives with the rest of the men. Despite everyone else believing there's a good possibility, Pearson will forge ahead to the hill to take it on his own. Turner is supposed to be the one who knows Pearson better than anyone, yet he's the one who misjudges Pearson, even though Pearson has shown he's determined to follow orders to the letter this entire time.
Lieutenant!
The Nazi tank commander only shot one bullet, but decided to load a fresh clip after fatally shooting Turner, giving Daniels enough time to pull Turner's pistol and shoot him.
You have to retreat.
No, we ain't leaving you here.
Get me up, I'll hold him off.
That's a noble sacrifice of him, but Turner is just one nearly dead soldier who fires a few bullets at an approaching enemy force before being gunned down. Yet somehow this bought the rest of them enough time to retreat down the hill.
So I'm making you my second. And you will support me 1,000%.
You've hated Daniels ever since the beginning. Why make him your second? He's done nothing but question you.
Go. Give me an excuse. Yeah, that's what I thought.
Anyone who uses their position to put someone in their place and then follows it up with a "that's what I thought" when the other person decided they were not worth it is a grade A unlikable ass. He used Daniels' unreasonableness and adherence to military law as a way of calling him a wuss, even though punching Pearson would get Daniels court-martialed.
Sorry, I didn't expect
To work alongside such a fine engineer.
Howard was part of the company that took the ridge. I can't believe they let him fight.
That is some weak-ass racism from a character from the 1940s. This should be easy to pull off, but both this game and Battlefield 1 tiptoed around the racism that was prevalent in the time period in which they were set, when actually showing the prejudice African-American soldiers had to endure would have made a much more powerful moment. The only reason they show even this slight prejudice is so that later Alejo can have a change of heart and resolve the issue of a segregated military without addressing it.
Front armor's inbound and they cut our line.
There's a radio and old CP. You provide fire support. I'll get it working. That CP's on top of the enemy.
You have two broken radios, one back at camp and one right on the front line. Instead of fixing the one now in enemy territory, why not fix the one behind your lines and use that to call in air support? Daniel survives yet another explosion that went off right in front of him. At least have him go deaf or lose a tooth. Do you want to know what the biggest sin this game commits? It makes World War II boring. I haven't been this checked out of a war story since Spec Ops: The Line. Pearson being belligerent actually helps the Allies win the war faster if you can believe it, since he gets so pissed off at Zussman for giving a German soldier water that he knocks Zussman down, prompting the prisoner to flee and be recaptured, which leads to them searching him and finding orders for his unit to destroy the Ludendorff Bridge over the Rhine. Also, these soldiers were just captured on the first day of the Battle of the Bulge, which occurred on December 16th, 1944. The Allied attack on the Ludendorff Bridge wouldn't happen until March of next year, meaning the Nazis wouldn't be sending a soldier to fight during the German counteroffensive with orders to destroy a bridge behind them. Plus, the Germans would have had plenty of time to destroy the bridge in the next 3 months if they were already planning it. Yet they needed a shipment of explosives right now to do it. What was the logic this German soldier was using, by the way? He knew he was carrying sensitive orders, but drew attention to himself by asking for water, then tried to flee when no one was even questioning him. He could have eaten that paper or dropped it on the trail in a bush somewhere. Even though their plan is to attack the base before it sends explosives to blow the bridge, and they succeed, the Germans at the bridge will still have explosives for the job. Zussman dropped his St. Michael necklace right as he was taken prisoner. Necklaces that are plot important have a habit of conveniently slipping off someone at the right moment.
No, you're not going anywhere. Zussman was captured. Pearson comes first.
I can't leave him!
In case you couldn't tell, I am now phoning this one in. This game is making me reconsider my decision to allow Call of Duty games on the channel. Daniel survives this too. Just die already. Please, I'm begging you.
Bin auf der Suche nach Arbeitern. Ich werde sie inspizieren. Die und separat.
Can't they all be forced labor? Why only the Jews? I mean, you're already committing war crimes. Why not commit a few more?
Wer sind die Juden? Die Juden.
He probably doesn't speak German. You should do a language check before executing someone for not knowing what you're asking. And yes, I'm asking for reasonableness from a Nazi prison guard. Zussman only gets kicked around for insulting the Nazi officer, when just a second ago he shot a man for remaining silent.
Pearson was ordered to retreat, but some of his men were trapped in the pass. He couldn't bring himself to fall back without them. But he ended up just losing more trying to save them. It's never been the same.
Maybe Pearson shouldn't have been put in command of more soldiers after he got his platoon killed in Africa for disobeying orders and was clearly shaken by it.
Am I looking at a court-martial, sir?
Wouldn't reflect too good on the Army to punish the soldier who accelerated the whole damn war effort. That's right. The intelligence you found on that prisoner was critical in locating the last bridge across the Rhine.
Was it? How hard can it be to look at a map and see where the bridges are located? You're telling me that's why Daniels isn't being court-martialed? Because he found a note? This game tries to pull a fast one on you, by making it look like Daniels returned to the States 2 weeks later. They even throw up some 2 weeks later text on screen, when in reality he is still in his car looking at the St. Michael medallion and imagining going home instead of finding Zussman. He even imagined that his brother Paul is there to greet him and they later go hunting, even though Paul died when Daniels was a kid. The only reason Paul is present is because the game hasn't revealed that he's dead yet, even though it makes Daniels look like he's lost his mind.
If I don't make it home, well, just watch over him, Paul.
Paul is dead. If you die, then you could be the one watching over them from heaven or whatever. This Paul is dead reveal is a farce. Now is the time where we yell angrily at each other until we come to an understanding. Seriously, if you can overcome your issues this easily like Pearson does, then they weren't very strong issues.
If Zussman's alive, he's across that bridge.
For all you know, Zussman was taken to Poland or somewhere on the other side of Germany. Yet Daniels is certain that Zussman can't be far from the Rhine.
I believe I owe you an apology.
Well, Alejo has gotten over his racism. I would have loved to have seen that character growth and how he overcame his prejudice. Instead, he just had a change of heart after taking the bridge. This newfound respect could have happened back during the Battle of the Bulge, when Howard saved their asses by fixing the radio while under fire.
There are reports of POW camps in the area. Davis has ordered us to wait for authorization before conducting a sweep. But I guess you know what to do with Davis's orders.
He's grown so much.
Daniels, you gotta see this.
You gotta see this, cliche. You should never say this when looking at a body when you are searching for someone you hope to find alive, unless it is a body of said person. And even then, you shouldn't say it.
It's like my whole life is leading to this moment.
Really? Your brother being killed by a wolf is just like saving your friend from being death marched across Germany?